Alright people, here's my tips for Nanowrimo, the writing challenge this November. Here are my editing tips for your novel. My first advice is to be mindful of purple prose, beige prose, exposition being tell rather than showing, and also good writing. It's important to remind yourself for good writing, not just things that need to be cut or changed. I read through my book and I color code things, and it helps me come back to it later after thinking about it with some edits. It helps me find passages and also gives me some direction on what to do with them. Exposition, or rather things that are on the telly side of the show don't tell spectrum, is a very good thing to add context to your story. However, when overused, it can slow down the pacing of your book. It can be used to add context such as, they were relatives, and it can be entertaining when done well, but it needs to be executed well in order not to bog down the pacing. I color it in blue, so that way I can go back to it later and turn it into more visual storytelling with dialogue. Purple prose is writing that is excessively flowery or verbose and kinda is confusing to read. I mark this in purple so it reminds me to go back to it later and simplify it. Beige prose is contrasted to purple prose. It is writing that is a bit dull and not very vivid and not very entertaining. I color this in cream so that way it reminds me to go back later and make it a bit more exciting. Try to get the sweet spot in between beige prose and purple prose. Writing that is not too confusing but is still artsy, so it's not purple prose, it's perfect prose. And you also want writing to be simple, but not so simple as to be boring. So you want the sweet spot in between beige and purple prose where you get perfect prose, where it is entertaining but not confusing, and simple without being boring. If something is great, well written, or a crucial plot point, I mark it in green, letting me know that I have to keep it in the story to make sense, or it's perfect writing and I can just leave it as it is. You can also mark things in red that you don't want to kill yet, but you know you have to, and maybe it can be a reminder to rewrite it, but it could also be unnecessary stuff you need to delete. And finally, when you color code things, remember to keep some notes on things that can be edited later and some more in-depth directions. Keep your brainstormed note changes in a file, or better yet, write them on paper in front of your book so you got them right there ready to go. I find writing on paper is a really good way to get creative. It is useful to use emojis in your pre-edit manuscripts to sort of point out an accent where you want changes to be on that color-coded section. You can use your own system for emojis, but personally I use colored circles and flowers, and the color coding still goes there. Good luck with Nanowrimo. I hope you write your best first novel.